Kia ora whanau, and welcome to another episode of Get a Job and Get Healthy with Costas Enterprises. I am your host, Alex Costas, and today's post, what we're going to talk about is we're going to get back onto the CV and the interview stuff, specifically this time about interviewing, and we're going to talk about prepping for your interview. So this is mainly about prepping for a panel interview and what you need to do, okay? So, first and foremost, I do cover all of these aspects along my blog website, which will be in the description notes. I'll also add a copy of my sweat coin as well, which if you go back to a previous episode I talked about, I do have a sweat coin account, and I'd really appreciate it if people went through there as well, if you want to learn more about sweat coin and go towards the healthy side. So, first and foremost, these tips that I'm going to teach you won't necessarily get you the job, but they'll get you into the mindset and help you feel more confident. Now, some of the stuff is it may be a little bit wafty, or floaty, or airy-fairy, you may think, but if you go with me and you stick with it, it might actually help you quite a bit. So the first thing you're going to do is, when you're doing a panel interview, we've already talked about the fact that you need to deal with what we call star examples or star L examples. So, shameless post here. If you haven't already, you may want to seriously think about going back to a previous podcast episode I've talked about, where I talk about star examples and I list how to create these. Again, another blog post as well I have done is on star examples, and I've also done another post and another podcast episode about before you apply for a job, and you should read those as well if you haven't already, or listen to the previous podcast episodes to get an idea of what it is that I'm trying to help you with. Now, identifying skills we've also covered as well briefly in other previous podcasts, but once you've identified those skills, you'll know what star examples as a basis for you to actually practice and remember. Now, sometimes your employer will quite easily come out and say exactly what it is that they want, but other times you'll need to read the job description over and over and just try to determine what skills they're looking for. So sometimes the employer might say something along the lines of, we need a person that has good customer service skills, good performance management skills, or networking relationship skills, those sorts of skills. They'll be quite open, and those are the skills that they actually want. But what they might say is, we also need someone to be able to work out how to do A, B, and C while maintaining it under pressure. And what you can take from that little sentence is something along the lines of, you also need to look at problem-solving skills, and also time management skills, and also stress, coping and dealing with stress in a high stressful environment. So once you've identified the basic skills, and bear in mind that you may not identify all of them, but you might have sort of 6 or 7 of them, then you have to practice the delivery of your star examples. Now, in my star examples things, you'll hear me say star L, okay? And we've already covered that in a previous episode, that what star L stands for, and I do suggest you go back and listen so that you can actually learn everything that we talk about and how to create these. So when I'm saying practice the delivery of your star L examples, what you can do is you can hold sort of a mock interview with you and maybe a family member or a friend. The important thing is to know that when going into an interview is what you're actually going to be asked is, even though it's one question by the interviewers, that one question is actually 2 to 3 questions all in the one question. Those questions are created in order to demonstrate a skill. So that's what they want you to do. They want you to demonstrate a skill. And it might be something similar to, this question is about teamwork. Tell us a time when you were a part of a good team. What was the defining factor about that team, and how did you resolve any conflicts within that team? So when you're asked a question like that, you may need to change your star examples to sort of fit the question, and you have to think about how you're going to break down that question. Now, in the example, we're told that the question that they're asking is about teamwork. So that's the skill that they clearly want to define. But is that the only skill that they want to identify? So let's break it down a bit more. So they ask you to tell them a time when you were part of a good team. So question 1, that is them giving the example. Okay. Then they go, what was the defining factor about this team? So question 2, what made this team great? So this should be within your example for your star example anyway. And finally, they ask, how did you resolve any conflicts within the team? So question 3, this is them not only asking about teamwork, but also they're actually asking how you resolve conflicts or how you deal with irate team members. And before you ask the answer, we never had any compliments, we never had any complaints or conflicts, is not going to be really helpful here. So think carefully, be open and be honest. Now also in the example, you may want to instead mention a time from your personal life if you can't think of a work example. So you may have had that perfect example of you may have had that perfect example where you have never had to worry about having a conflict in a team, or maybe your team just got on really, really great together. So if you can't do that, try to think of a time when you were maybe you were on a sports team and things didn't go well, and you needed to resolve any complaints that way. Those are the sorts of things. The main thing that a lot of people don't realize is even if you're going for a work interview, you don't actually have to stick to just a work interview. You can actually use anything from the time of your life, which is really, really helpful if you ever have to deal with a stress question, and maybe you've had some stresses in your life that you need to explain, and they would show how good you were at dealing with that stress. The next thing is you've got to practice the delivery of your answer. So you need to practice taking your time to think about the answer that you'll give to the question. Making sure that you interpret one of your star examples answers into the question that they have asked. Now this may mean that you actually have to slightly adapt your answer. So one thing you'll learn while you're doing your star examples and star answers will be, it's great if you can explain the situation, task, action, and result. And then for those that have listened to the other podcast, the L that I talk about is actually learned, what you learned. Now if you can't adapt these within the interview to answer the question being asked, you may as well not even bother trying to remember them. Now bear in mind that this only comes with practice. So the more practice you do, the more experience you have with these style of interview questions, the easier it will be to adapt and respond. Now, I'm going to make a very big thing here. I'm going to say right now, and this is not part of the blog post, this is not part of the thing, this is just part of for you people listening on the podcast. If you are having problems, or you don't have anybody to do mock interviews with, you can contact me via my email, doncostas@gmail.com. That's DON for Nike, COSTAS @gmail.com. Email me with the job that you're applying for. We can go through some things together, okay? We can go through some examples, and I can give you ideas of what kind of questions they may ask based on a job that you want to apply for. Now, this is only for my podcast audience. Anytime, doesn't matter where you're from, what job you're applying for, we can try and work something out so that you can get the job that you want. But that being said, if I send you a question or two, I would want you to actually respond as if you have thought about this. So you would need to have done your research, go through, create your star examples to the best of your ability. They don't have to be perfect. The main thing with a star example, as I said on my previous podcast, is they don't really care about the answer. What they care about is, one, can you structure it? so that it's in the situation, task, action, and result. And 2, are you demonstrating the skill? So the answer is important in the fact that you have to tell the story of how you just defined that skill. Now, when you are sitting down and you're actually having an interview and someone is asking you these questions, both practice as well as in the actual interview itself, the key point is to listen to the question and listen to it completely. What happens is a lot of people, they will hear a question and they'll automatically switch off and start going, okay, they're asking about teamwork. I need to answer about teamwork. What was my star example about teamwork? Problem is they're thinking about that before they hear the rest of the question. So the teamwork answer that you may have nothing to do with the question that they've asked, because they've asked 4 different questions in one. So please, take your time to learn. Take your time to listen. You'll be more confident and also comfortable if you respond after you've thought about it. Now, the important thing is a lot of people think that they have to start talking quickly or responding as soon as the person has finished answering their questions. It is actually okay if you take 10 seconds, 5 to 10 seconds to stop and actually think about it. Now, you can time out that time yourself. You can time and think 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now, this is how I did this. You can do that if you like. It will also make it look like to the person that you are actually thinking about the answer. Now, the main thing is when you are answering it, you want this interview, and I'm using quotation marks here, air quotes, you want your interview to be more like a conversation. Okay? If you can make your interview responses as a conversation, not as a rigid, strict sort of person, but more as a time when I did this, what's this? The employer will feel more comfortable around you. That's a good thing. So we've talked about the star examples. We've talked about how you're preparing for them and you're ready for them. It doesn't matter whether you ace them or you fail miserably. Confidence is important, but so is actually responding, okay? You want to do the best you can. Now, the next sort of step that we talk about is dress to impress. So, I know I don't really need to say this, but I'm going to cover it anyway for people that don't understand. If you are going for an interview, specifically if you are going for an interview where you are working, in an organisation, suit and tie, that sort of thing, nice blazer or dress, all those sorts of things. The main thing is you have to dress up. Because when you are going for an interview, you are giving a visual representation of yourself to the employer. You go, Alex, what does that mean? Well, look, you don't have to be dressed as if you're going to on a first date or a school prom or a black tie event. But at least dress professionally. Dress like an office worker if you are going for an office job. If you're going for a job with McDonald's, dress in clean clothes. Look presentable. That's the most important thing. Now think about it simply. If you were on the opposite side of the interview table, and someone came to your interview wearing a t-shirt and shorts, or with a dirty beard full of, or with messy hair, and you're applying for an office role, would you hire that person based on their performance? Would you hire them based on their presentation, given they are supposed to be the representation of your brand, of your business? And that is what you are doing. When you turn up to an interview, you are providing the employer the interpretation of what it will be like if you are their employee. Okay? You want to make a good first impression, it might as well be the last one you have to give. So go get a shirt, get a blouse, get some nice pants and dress, get a haircut or comb or brush your hair. If you're a man, shave or style your facial hair. And go and kill that interview. Go and do it. Okay, so now we're going to get to a part which is where I say it's the airy-fairy or the wafty part that people find and roll their eyes at, but it's kind of a bit important. Believe in yourself and visualize your own success. And yes, I did say visualize your own success. Before you go to the interview, once you're looking fresh and you feel so fresh and so clean, yes, that was an Outcast reference, you need to believe that you can give that amazing interview. Put simply, be confident. Believe in yourself. You are going in the interview to show that you will be an asset to their team or to their organization, because you already know you have every skill needing to go for that job. You know why? Because you applied for the job and you read the job as, I know I can do this job. So go in there, not only show that you can do the job required, but exceed at it. You thought you were qualified when you applied for the job. Now's the time to act that way. One of the things that I do, and some people, you can do this, you can try it, it might help, it might not. But whenever I go for an interview these days, and I haven't needed to for a while because I'm happy at the job that I'm with, but every time I was going for an interview, I would look in the mirror and I would tell myself, you got this. You can do this. You know what you're doing. You're confident. Be confident. Walk like a man. Walk tall. And I would look at the mirror and I would say it to myself. I would say it 5-10 minutes. Just sit there looking at myself going, you know what? You know you can do this. You know you can answer these questions. This is a job you know you can do. Why do you know you can do it? Because you applied for it. And I keep reiterating that in my head every time I was going for an interview, right until the moment I sat down at the chair in front of the walkers. I would think to myself, yep, I can do this. I would also take 10 deep breaths. Because one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is how nervous you can get. And it's all good saying to people, oh yeah, I get nerves. But it's letting those nerves control you. That's what you need to change. And that's where the deep breathing comes in. If you can take 10 deep breaths, or every time you start to feel like, oh God, the nerves are starting to get me, stop. Control yourself. Breathe in deeply, breathe out slowly. Relax your nerves. If you can do 10 deep breaths before you go for an interview, you will notice you'll feel more relaxed. You'll feel more at home. And here's the thing, that is the important part. Because when you feel comfortable, you will give your answers comfortably. If you give your answers comfortably, the employer will notice that. Now, I'm not talking about, sitting there and, putting your legs wide open, laying down on the bench as if you're at home. But if you feel like you're in a comfortable position, your nerves will disappear. So, the next part is to do some research. Prepare and ask a question. So I know I've already covered this. I covered this in my previous blog post, as well as my previous podcast about writing a relevant question. But it is actually really important. And this is not a standard what does the job pay or when will I get picked type of question. It should be more of a reflection of what the job is. For example, if you're applying for a business analyst type role within security, then ask something that is in line with what they are looking for. It might be something like, what security measures do you currently use and how do you intend to develop these to the changing technological markets? By asking this question to do with that job, you are showing an interest in the job, and what it might not get you the job, it will at least show them that you're seriously interested and could lead to another job interview or a junior position within the same organization. the one thing I want people to do is take a breath. Breathe. You can do it. You got this. A lot of people don't realize there's something else that I talk about, and I will talk about in one of my future posts, about what to expect in a panel interview and what you're going to do. One of the ways that you can actually calm yourself down is 9 times out of 10, you will be put in a room where you are opposite the other people and there's a table between you. Now, assuming that it's not a clear plastic table, they will not be able to see your legs. So, from your waist down, when you're sitting down in front of 3 people or 4 people for a panel interview, just relax your legs. Sit comfortably. They can't see your legs rather than sitting rigid and having your legs together as if you have to be stuck like a rabbit, then you can relax them. If you relax your legs, you will feel more comfortable. You will feel more confident because you're in a place where you can answer your questions confidently, comfortably. Now, in the blog post, I basically give some examples of some books to read about dressing for success. Okay? I am an Amazon affiliate. I mentioned that before. You could go to my website, click those links and do that. All I really care about is, as I said in the middle of the podcast, if you want help, you can contact me. I will help you. Okay? Now, I used to charge for this sort of thing. For people that mention this podcast, I will gladly not charge and I will help you. Okay? I want you to get the job that you need. So please hit me up on my email, doncostas@gmail.com. We can go through some star examples. I'm not going to do everything for you. I expect you to have done some work first before this. But if I can help you in any way, I gladly will. So until next time, have a great day, whānau, and good luck.